and I'm with Epilepsy Foundation of Colorado. And I would like to welcome you to the Epilepsy 101 and Seizure First Aid training today. And if you have questions, we will be answering them as we go. And we will just start and go through the PowerPoint presentation first. Then we would suggest that you view the video afterwards. So you could access, it's a Take Charge of the Facts video, and you can access that on YouTube. If you search for Take Charge of the Facts Epilepsy, that video should pop up, and then you can watch it on your own. And it's basically teams that are presenting, and it's somewhat enjoyable to watch, and it's only about 7 minutes long, and it has some pretty good information in it, including that you can see seizures happen, so that you're better able to identify them when you see them out in public or in your regular life. So please watch that at the end of this PowerPoint. So we'll just start going through the PowerPoint, and how do I move it from C to C? Okay. So I'm sorry, this is my first time doing the webinar, so there might be some glitches along the way, and we'll try to get those solved as efficiently as possible. Okay, so what is the difference between epilepsy and seizures? There's actually really no difference, except for that epilepsy is where there are recurring seizures. And you'll also hear people call it a seizure disorder, and those terms are actually interchangeable. Sometimes doctors will use the word seizure disorder and they never really use the word epilepsy, and so the person may not know that it's epilepsy, or sometimes epilepsy has more of a stigma to it, and so maybe people don't want to call it epilepsy and they're more comfortable using seizure disorder, and that's fine. People can call it whatever they want between those two terms, but just so you know that it really does mean the same thing. And a seizure is basically a brief temporary disturbance of electrical activity in the brain. So some people call it a lightning storm in the brain, and that's kind of a good visual description of what's happening as far as one part of the brain will get, or the entire brain will be surging with electrical activity at one time. Many people will have just one seizure in their lifetime. It's actually 1 in 10 people will have a single seizure in their lifetime, and those people are not considered to have epilepsy, but sometimes if our bodies are put under certain circumstances, our bodies will react with a seizure. So if someone has a high fever, or somebody who has low sodium levels, or somebody who gets overheated to the point of having a seizure. So those people are not people with epilepsy. They just have had a single seizure in their lifetime. And who has epilepsy? So 3 million, this is actually a little outdated, so 3 million Americans have epilepsy, and that is actually 47,000 in the state of Colorado alone. And the statistics are 1 in 100, so you can do the math, and in your child's school or in your place of employment, it's basically 1 in 100 would be the estimated amount that have epilepsy. And most of those people are diagnosed both as children and as seniors. Although you can be diagnosed at any age, those are the most typical times because the brain is developing and changing during those ages. So during childhood it's developing, and during your senior ages it's actually sort of changing and maybe disintegrating in ways or changing in ways. So epilepsy could happen at those ages. And what causes epilepsy? About 70% of the cases the cause is unknown. And that can be extremely frustrating for people who are living with epilepsy. It can greatly impact their lives, and then there's no explanation for why this is happening to them. So keep that in mind as far as this, psychosocial sort of thing that's happening with someone with epilepsy, is that they might want answers, and there may not be answers for why this is happening. But 30% of the cases, the cause is known, and it can be due to head trauma or stroke or anything that causes maybe a brain tumor, anything that causes scarring on the brain can create epilepsy or can make epilepsy happen. And it doesn't always happen right away. It could happen, 5 years later after the head trauma happened or after the tumor happened, or it could happen, 15 years later. So you never know when it is actually going to occur. And hereditary reasons are being researched, and they're coming up with more and more links to DNA and actual hereditary reasons for this happening. And those are actually, a lot of those are called certain disorders under epilepsy. So like Dravet syndrome is one of the ones where hereditary reasons have been linked to that. And those are usually, like I said, called something else, not just epilepsy. But many people that we know, have it running through their family. So maybe their grandfather had epilepsy and then they get diagnosed with epilepsy, or maybe their uncle did, or somebody else in their family has been diagnosed. So that's the heredity link too. Let's see, the brain is where epilepsy starts. So all the brain functions like seeing, thinking, moving, sensations can be affected by this electrical activity happening in the brain. And that's how come you see the seizures happening. So people may have seizures where it's just the feeling, or people may have seizures where it affects their movement. And a seizure occurs, like I said, it's like the lightning storm in the brain. So it's where nerve cells fire too quickly or too much at one time, and the brain can't handle that, and then your body reacts. What happens during a seizure? So I like to think of it as there are two umbrellas of seizures, and one of the umbrellas would be the generalized seizure, and one of the umbrellas would be partial seizures, and then all the seizures, seizure types, I guess, fall under those. So the generalized seizure involves the whole brain. The entire brain is having that lightning storm activity or that electrical activity happening in it at once. And usually during these seizures, people will lose consciousness. And the two main types, there are others, but the two main types under this are absence seizures and the tonic-clonic seizure. And the tonic-clonic is what used to be called the grand mal, and they don't use that term anymore, mostly because tonic-clonic is more descriptive, so it means stiffen and jerk, which is actually what's happening to the person. And then also grand mal, if you translate that, it means big and bad, and I don't think anybody would like to be diagnosed with something that's called big and bad. So it kind of increases the stigma out there, I think, if we use that term. So we like to use the term tonic-clonic these days. And then under partial seizures, that's when only part of the brain is being affected at one time. So sometimes they do not lose consciousness during a partial seizure, and the two partial seizures that are most common are the simple partial and the complex partial seizures. Some general symptoms that will occur during, hold on, let me look. Yeah, during these seizures, during all of these seizures would be, well, depending on the type, let's just go through the types. I don't think that these are listed in here. Okay, so let's see. So for the tonic-clonic seizure, that would be the one that would be where somebody falls down suddenly, and they're probably, convulsing and shaking and jerking, and they black out, they lose consciousness, and then they'll come to after a few minutes. Hopefully the seizure will not last more than 5 minutes, and most of these seizures will only last a couple minutes. And the